This is Michael Kaplan from TAGA, and we're here today with Larry Coryell in Orlando, Florida, getting ready to film an instructional video. And we're going to do a quick little interview beforehand and get to know Larry a little bit. Thank you, sir, for agreeing to do this today.
Most pleasurable.
So, I guess first thing is, when did you start playing guitar? At what age?
I'm not sure. I had to wait for my hands to get big enough to play those big guitars that they had back in 1959, 1958. Like this, big guitars like this. My body hadn't grown enough. I just messed around with the ukulele when I was 12, just so I could just get the principles of playing a stringed instrument. But around 15 or 16, I finally was able to play a guitar this big, and I started studying. And it was always jazz, even from the get-go? No, I started with...
Oh, okay.
Started with Chet Atkins style, because I grew up in the sticks.
The sticks of where?
The sticks in the southeastern quadrant of the state of Washington, which is like a desert.
Yeah.
And, but country and Western music and right-wing politics, that was all.
That was all there was?
That was all in there. And I did the Chet Atkins thing. I couldn't do it very well. And then I knew that there was a jazz guitar teacher in that same music store. So I went with him, and first thing he showed me was this.
Did you ever do any rock stuff back then? Yeah?
Yeah, but you don't need to take lessons to do rock. It's just natural. Just listen to a few Chuck Berry records and just listen to the youth-oriented music market on the various media, and you got it.
All right. And so you, at this music store, I guess in southeast Washington, you started taking jazz lessons?
In the booming metropolis of Richland, Washington, which is 80 miles south of Yakima, 80 miles north of Walla Walla.
All right. And you did jazz lessons?
Yeah, after the Chet Atkins lessons, I really couldn't play the Chet Atkins style very well.
So you're about 16, 17 years old?
15, 16, yeah.
And doing just right into jazz?
Yeah, I mean, that first lesson, my teacher wrote out all these chords I was just playing for you. And because then I had specific information, and that's what I needed. I needed content.
Yeah, sure.
And it was great.
Did you have, was there a guitarist you happened to, I mean, other than Chet Atkins, I guess you liked, when you got into jazz?
He's the only person I heard.
What about when you started doing the jazz? Did you start to just eat it all up?
Well, my teacher, I borrowed his records.
Oh, all right.
Johnny Smith, Tal Farlow, pre-overdub Les Paul. He played a lot like Django.
Yeah.
Barney Kessel.
There you go.
And then a few months later, Wes Montgomery released the incredible jazz guitar of Wes Montgomery, which he did not like, by the way.
Really?
He didn't like anything he did until the live record that he made with Miles's rhythm section.
Oh yeah, the half smoking at half note.
No, that was also great, but that was afterwards. This was the one that was called Full House.
Oh, love it.
Full House.
That's the album that got me into jazz. It's interesting you said that. Because I was a rock guy, and then I very late in life, in my early 20s, I just bought a Wes Montgomery CD, and it was Full House, and I put it on, and I was blown away. I said, "What is this music I've never heard?"
He actually told me that he liked that record.
That was a phenomenal. So that's the stuff you were into, Wes and John, all the records, I guess, you were borrowing.
Yeah, I mean that's how I got parameters, and I would try to transcribe Tal Farlow solos to not much, without much success. But if I transcribed Barney Kessel stuff, it was easier, because Barney's approach to playing was more. It wasn't any less spectacular than Tal's. It was more basic. Yeah,
more accessible for you to...
At that time, especially.
Sure. And did you, at that time, 16 years old, was it a hobby, or did you just practice all the time or play all the time?
I practiced as much as I could. When I got into college, I practiced 8 hours a day.
Where'd you go? You went to University for Music? Or?
University of Washington for journalism.
Oh, okay.
My parents wanted me to have something to fall back on in case I didn't make it in music. And I practiced.
You just played all the time?
Well, especially in the summer break, I'd play 8 hours a day.
Would you say you were playing or practicing or both together? You know, because there's
I really wasn't playing. I didn't know what playing was. I was just practicing.
Getting stuff together.
I was practicing what I thought was music. But when I went to my first jam session, I drove downtown.
In university?
No, all the way downtown into Seattle, which is like 20 minutes from the university. But I was up in Lake City. Anyway, I thought, you don't want to know all that.
First jam
session. The first time that I tried to sit in with grown-up musicians was a disaster.
Really?
Yeah, I got lost. I didn't know what I was doing.
Natural.
And so I skulked away. And some musicians in my environment grabbed me and said, "Okay, come on.
We'll show you the ropes."
Yeah.
Well, that's how it goes with jazz. You know, you got to give back to the younger guys.
Well, another guy was my age, and he played many instruments. He was a multi-instrumentalist. He played great piano. He ended up playing organ in one of my groups later, wow. But he also played great trumpet, and he just had me comp for him for about 3 or 4 weeks straight. He said, "You can't play any solos." And I said, "That's okay with me."
Hey.
So I just comped for him, and he had a blast because all of a sudden he had some chords underneath it, and he could, he could do his thing. And
well, that's a good way to learn.
Yeah, that was good for me.
To get the right feel, comping for somebody.
Yeah, I didn't really
opening your ears.
I didn't really understand. I mean, and this guy he played modern. His guy was Miles on trumpet, but he was a child prodigy sort of, so he started early doing Louis Armstrong stuff, and that's where I saw that all of that was connected. I didn't know that all of that stuff was connected.
Interesting. How did you so after university, I mean, how did you make the transition into a career? Was it a natural thing?
Well, I got good enough to be in a band that played after hours downtown. And I even played piano in that band sometime. Straight ahead stuff. Yeah, I played, I wrote an arrangement of Tonk by Ray Bryant. That was jazz was really good back in that era. I mean, Bobby Timmons, the Cannonball Adderley. Sure. The big thing that we would play, the big flag waver at the end of the set was Sacca Woe. And people went crazy. Yeah. That's when I came to understand that it's all blues. Yeah. Even when you're playing a hoity-toity, doily-type standard, it's still blues. Even if you're playing the most complex jazz, with triads on top of it, it still comes back to, as we were talking earlier, blues. I mean, that's where I think the majority of when I say our, I mean Western music, comes from. This kind of music, whether it's jazz, rock, funk, reggae, it all comes from the blues. And without that, we were talking about playing with soul, playing with the right feel. If you don't have that, it's very difficult. And like we were talking about, something that might not be teachable. You can teach. Well, I think if you stay with it, you can teach that. If you listen to the right stuff too, right? If the young player gets in the right band, with the right guys, if he's in the right environment, he'll be humiliated if he doesn't start to pick up on the spirit of what those guys are. Instead of playing a chord like this, you play it like this. And there you got something right. And there you got a little bit of. What did you? You said you were in a band doing the after hours. That was the transition that kind of got you? Yeah. And then you stayed in Washington for a while, or? Well, I got one more gig before I moved to New York. Mm-hmm. 2 more gigs. I got 1 gig with what was considered to be the best lounge band in the city, because Jerome Gray, my jazz teacher, was the pianist in that band. But Jerome left, and they hired me, and we had a gig in Bellevue, not the hospital. And that's when I first heard this song.
Oh, yeah.
But I didn't really appreciate what a great song it was, because I never paid. I listened to the lyrics, but at my age now, I understand those.
Oh, yeah. It's, when you're a young kid, it's different.
The pain of love and the pain of life.
Pain of life.
And the. Yeah. I saw Barbara Streisand do it last month in Chicago. She did a digital duet with Anthony Newley. That guy was a genius.
How'd she sound? Phenomenal.
The both of them did. I mean, he was singing and she was singing. She's lost her. She can't hit the high major third on people anymore. But whatever.
Hey, she's still.
I mean, she and Jamie Dimon probably have their own banks.
So what? You moved to New York, and you just decided to make the move. I'm going to go be a pro musician.
Tell you what happened. After I left the lounge band because I wanted my own band, and I got asked to play at a place called the, oh man, I can't remember that. I think it was called the Gas Lamp in West Seattle. And it was more youth oriented, and we got a lot of young people. And it was the go-go time, so we had a go-go dancer. So we had to play, but not a problem.
Yeah,
not a problem, because that's jazz anyway. Shotgun, we did Shotgun, all that stuff. Junior Walker.
Yeah.
Great tenor solo.
And so you had this gig.
And I had that gig, and that's when I saved up. I saved all the money from that gig. Maybe it was about 6 months, 7 months.
Specifically to...
And moved to New York.
To go do music full time.
And I pulled into New York City 51 years ago, tomorrow, September 3rd, 1965.
You remember the day?
Yeah, because I had a car crash immediately when I got it. It's
fantastic.
New York. It's New York.
And what, you found a place to live and started playing?
Well, yeah, I think I stayed at an SRO, which is a single room with the bathrooms. I didn't care.
You were there to play, right? There to learn, there to play?
First night I heard Charles Lloyd Quartet with Ron Carter and Gabor Szabo, man. It was amazing.
It's like you had died and gone to heaven.
And I was like this with Max Gordon.
Oh,
we
really?
got Max Gordon and I got tight. He just had a sense of intuition that I was somebody to be, who would end up playing in his club.
How old were you at that when you got to New York? 22?
22.
And just started playing, like you said. Just go. I mean, because moving to New York, and I mean, then or now, it's not any easier now or not any easier back then.
I played everything. I took any gig.
Yeah, of course. You have to.
Took a lot of gigs where there was no bass player.
Do what you got to do, you know.
I started playing bass lines.
Yep. But you learn a lot on the gig. That's where you learn the most.
Yes, you do.
It's better than, you know.
Dave Pike, do you know who Dave Pike was? Oh, most underrated vibes player in jazz. He's no longer with us. But he took me aside and told me, I want you to go hear Grant Green. Listen to his Time Failing. And George Benson had told me the same thing before I left Seattle, because he had come through with Jack McDuff.
Oh, yeah.
He said, because I said, I love Kenny Burrell. He said, yeah, me too, but Grant Green, you know.
So you became friendly with and or played with a lot of guys.
Yeah.
From early on.
Hey, man, it's who you know, who you hang out with.
Yeah. You become, hopefully, like the people you hang out with. Hopefully you hang out with the right people.
Yeah.
And then how did you here you are 22 years old in the Big Apple, and you taking any gig you can. You became, I think it, believe it or not, I think on Wikipedia, it says the father of fusion.
Right.
How did it go from that to into fusion guitar?
Well, I made a conscious decision to start mixing styles in order to develop my own voice, because first few months in New York, the older players were telling me, don't try to stop playing like West Montgomery and Tom Farlow.
Try to find your own thing.
We already have a West Montgomery and Tom
right.
Farlow. You're going to have to find your own voice, or else you're just going to be lost in the crowd.
So you made it was a conscious decision.
So I started extrapolating Beatles melodies in jazz tunes, if they fit.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Just to try to get some ideas. And eventually, I was in this band called the Free Spirits.
Yeah, sure.
And most of the jazz work was done by the tenor player, Jim Pepper, the late Jim Pepper. And it was at that time that Gary Burton heard me play in New York and started thinking about putting me in his new quartet that he was forming. He was still playing with Stan Getz at the time. But at the same time, I knew Chico Hamilton, and I found Chico through Gabor Szabo. And Gabor said, I'm leaving. Why don't you take Larry? So that's how I got my first jazz record date was with Chico.
And then Gary Burton afterwards, you said? In
right
the
after Chico, because Chico didn't, he just had a casual gig because he had a jingle company.
Yeah.
With Jimmy Cheatham. No, Doc Cheatham.
Somebody.
Some important guy, but Burton was very organized, and he organized this quartet.
A lot of guitar players went through his groups.
Yeah.
I mean, in addition to yourself, I think
everybody.
I think Pat Metheny went through there eventually. I think Kurt Rosenwinkel might have went through there originally.
Mick Goodrick.
Yeah, Mick. That's right. That's right. So
all of those. Schofield. All of those.
So I didn't know Schofield did.
Yeah, man.
Very. What about?
So we went out on the road and we became very popular in 1967 or 68, and but I wanted to do more rock-oriented things, and Gary still wanted to stay more with the straight ahead, which was okay by me, because Herbie Mann was also touring with us, and he was thinking like I was thinking, and so Gary replaced me with Chick Corea in Phoenix.
You remember the city?
Oh, listen, man. Jazz musicians have to do strange things. He never told me I was fired.
Well, you just showed up and the amp wasn't there?
Chick Corea showed up. We get to the airport and there's Chick. And I'm thinking...
Oh, this is strange.
Yeah, and then I put two and two together. And, I've been meaning to tell you. But, you know, it's difficult. But and the next day I was playing with Herbie Mann. And we had a huge hit record called Memphis Underground.
Yeah.
Which was very commercial at the time, but there was really no motivation to be commercial. We wanted to play new ideas. We wanted to play. I wanted to make jazz guitar. I wanted to put more string bends in there. That's why I have the unwound third. Wanted to do some more string bending in there, and some more, do a quote from Hendrix, do a quote from Cream.
Yeah. How did you? How'd the Miles thing come about?
Oh, that was much later. That was in '78.
Yeah, sure. That was.
My wife and my wife's best friend were kind of nursing Miles back to health. He had a hip operation. He came out to Connecticut to recuperate, and they had him in this house that one of the ladies had, and they started bringing me around, and then we got to talking about music, mostly him talking and me listening.
Yeah, sure.
And he ended up producing me for a session that actually that took place during the time that the Miles movie takes place, but I'm not mentioned.
I never saw the movie.
Well, I don't know why they didn't mention me.
Quite frankly, I heard it wasn't that good. But I haven't seen not the session, the movie. I heard the movie wasn't that good.
Oh, well, I don't know.
I haven't seen it.
A lot of real hardcore Miles devotees like Wallace Roney.
Yeah.
He didn't even go.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm curious because.
Did that session come? That session got released or did not get released? It never
because
did,
Miles
right?
never played trumpet on it. He played synthesizer.
So it never got released. Yeah.
He couldn't. He was too messed up to play trumpet.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, before we do the instructional video, just a couple more questions. A couple things. One, do you still practice every day?
Yes.
That's
when I don't practice, especially before a gig, I pay for it.
you feel it. You can feel right away.
My dear friend John Lee, who was the right-hand man for Sonny Rollins and Dizzy Gillespie, he said, "Larry, I got to talk to you. You got to warm up, man. Dizzy warmed up. If Dizzy can, you know." So I feel a little guilty right now because I haven't warmed up for our teaching video.
We'll give you time to warm up first.
All right.
The only two more questions. One probably difficult to answer. Do you have a favorite guitarist?
Oh, there's so many of them.
That's what most people say. For me, it's pretty easy. I say Wes, and
Jim Hall.
Jim Hall, yeah.
For some reason, I go back to him.
Sure.
I first started.
Sure.
When the first month I was in New York, Jim was playing with Trio.
Yeah.
Not only was his music beautiful, but he was
He's
really
a good man. Yeah.
He was a gentleman.
Yeah, he
was the nicest man I ever met.
He was. Now, well, actually, I said two more questions, but it's actually going to be three because there's an extra one. I just want to mention something that we mentioned when we weren't on camera, or I want you to mention it, which is at some point you have to stop figuring out guitar stuff and listen to horn players and listen to piano players and try to describe and get the vocabulary from other instruments other than guitar. Otherwise, you're going to sound like a guitarist.
You got to get out. Well, some cats can do it.
Yeah,
without
maybe.
doing that. But you got to get out there and talk shop. You got to really live the musician's life and do what. Look at the people that you really like and find out what it is they're doing. Then you can be like them. What they're listening to.
Yeah,
that's very important.
Do you have any advice for people that want to, younger guys out there that might see this interview that look up to you and might want to have a career in music? Is it possible these days still?
Absolutely.
Good.
Go for it, man. I just heard it. I was on stage at the chapel here last Sunday. 19-year-old kid from Queens who was graduated from UCF, played just like Pat Martino. Only still, he played like himself.
Yeah.
The staccato in his attack was fantastic.
Did it get you excited when you hear young guys playing like?
Well, I was listening. I mean, he didn't know the bridge to Love for Sale, so I called him out. So when they were doing their head, 2-5-1 a D flat, and once he got that, he got it. See, that's what guys did for me.
Yeah.
So I'm just doing what was done for me.
Yeah, well, that's
I'm doing
good,
what was
man.
done for me, and I know it's hokey and corny, but really what happens when you get to my age, you really are in a position of giving back what was given to you.
It doesn't sound hokey at all. It sounds like a good thing to do.
I got to hang out with Dizzy.
Yeah,
got to play with him.
You've hung out and play with everybody, right?
Not everybody.
Anybody that you haven't gotten to play with?
I never played with Keith, but I don't think he plays with guitar players.
I don't think so either. I've never heard him play with a guitar player.
But I know he'd sound great with John Abercrombie.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
That's another one of my favorites. John Abercrombie. I mean, he's got to go in the favorite list. Because 20 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, he put down the pick and only plays with his thumb.
Yep.
And it's a big success.
Yeah, he's got his own,
it's a huge, and he's a fantastic composer.
Yeah, he's a great player. Well, I'm glad to hear you say that people can, if you want to, I like your answer of if you, want to succeed, you said just do it.
Yeah, because...
This is not a Nike commercial.
I remember eavesdropping on a conversation with, may he rest in peace, Bobby Hutcherson. He said somebody asked him why he does this. And he said, I just can't help myself.
Got no choice. Well, thanks, man. Let's give you some time to warm up, and we'll
all right.
Get this video going.
Good.
Thank you, man. All right. Once again, this is Michael Kaplan from TAGA, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel or channels, and check out all our guitar instructional stuff, and look for the Larry Coryell video coming soon.